So, welcome everyone to the sixth meeting of the Big West Rotaract Club. Every 2 weeks, we hear from speakers who tell us about their inspirational stories, expertise in their field, or how they are finding innovative solutions to our world's most pressing challenges. My name is Tessa Young, and I am the Vice President of Public Relations for this club. Before we begin, we'd like to welcome the newcomers, so specifically Rebecca right now, for joining us today. So please feel free to reach out afterwards if you have any questions about our club at the end of the meeting. So this week we have Mitty, who will be talking to us about travel hacking. So a little bit about Mitty Chang. So Mitty Chang is an entrepreneur, business owner, professional speaker, world traveler, Rotarian, and Rotaractor dual membership. He is a founder of Candever, a digital marketing and web development agency based in San Francisco Bay Area, California. Mitty has been a part of Rotary since the age of 14 as an interactor. He has co-founded 2 Rotaract clubs, 2 global Rotaract projects, a Rotaract Zone leadership organization, and a Rotary Club. He currently serves as the 2018-2019 co-chair of Rotary International Rotaract Interact Committee and as an assistant Rotary coordinator for Rotary Zone 25. In his free time, Mitty is often exploring new food eateries, planning his next travel adventure, and working on new passion projects. Without further ado, here is Mitty.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Tessa, for the wonderful introduction, and thank you, Jane, for the invitation. It's so great to be here talking to each of you about actually something I'm pretty excited about. It's one of my personal passions and hobbies, and that's traveling. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see some of the slides. And we're going to talk a little bit about how can you get from point A to point B around the world in just a few dollars. That's the purpose of the talk today. But before I talk about that, just a little bit more background about myself. So I come from an immigrant family. So I grew up in California where I was raised. And Interact has been the starting point in my Rotary journey. So I was lucky enough to grow up in the world's largest Interact district with over 8,000 interactors and about 100 different Interact clubs. So Rotary for me has been a big part of who I am. And that continued on in university and even throughout my young professional years in my 20s through Rotaract. And Rotaract was really what developed my leadership skills, where I met some of my favorite people around the world, but also it's where I started all my travels. So rewinding that a little bit back to my college years, where my hair was a little bit longer and my style was a little bit different, but also my bank account was a lot different than where I am today. Having spent several years in adult life now and running my own business, I can kind of afford to travel now by cash. But this story talks about a decade ago when I was just about to graduate college and I wanted to go to Bangkok, Thailand for the Rotary National Convention. Having already spent several years at that point through Interact, through Rotaract, and having traveled to some of the local Rotary National Conventions that were luckily in the United States during those years, this was my first trip abroad, if you don't count my mother country, Taiwan, and also just the United States in general. So this is my 3rd country that I would ever visit. And it was also my first time thinking about how do I get to an international destination when I wasn't working full time and I was supporting myself through college instead. And that's when a friend of mine started talking to me a little bit more about, hey, Mitty, did you know that there's something called travel hacking? Tell me a little bit more about that. And so he started sharing with me about credit cards, actually, about travel credit cards. And one in particular, he said, Mitty, if you sign up for this United credit card, you'll end up getting enough miles, 65,000 miles, give you a round trip economy flight from California to Bangkok or anywhere in Asia. You just pay the airport taxes, and that's just a few dollars. I didn't believe that at first, but I did my own research and I started looking more into this community called travel hacking. Turns out there was a huge online community, and it's even grown bigger today. And the hobby travel hacking, or points enthusiasts or miles enthusiasts, whatever you want to call it, exists as a different way to travel and to elevate how you travel. So I ended up going from San Francisco to Bangkok and back to San Francisco for $5 and something cents each way, and I burned miles. So how did I do that? And we talked about just being able to get from point A to point B, and these are some of the photos from my Thailand experience at the Rotary National Convention that year, and it was such a great time. Clearly, there's my first time in Thailand, but just the experience itself, remembering, pad thai on the street for $1.60 US, or fresh mango smoothies that were $1 US, or even just experience the Rotary Convention itself, which was still by today's standards for all the conventions I've been to, the cheapest convention for Rotary that I was able to go to, just because the cost of living is so cheap there. So we had the House of Friendship and a host hospitality night where the local host committee gets to showcase their culture and their food. And the entry for that was only about $25 US, and it included a buffet of seafood, of steak, just about anything you want, pad thai. And it was a convention hall size of a buffet. So it was quite large. So now that I've shared with you a little bit about how I started with travel hacking, let me tell you a little bit about how do we get from where I was to where you maybe want to be. In the past 10 years, I've been able to travel to 30 different countries and attend 11 Rotary National Conventions, all because of travel hacking. I've spent a total of about $770 US on all 11 of those trips. So that's an average of $35 US per flight. We're talking about usually from the US to another country, whether or not that's Seoul in South Korea, or at Sydney, Australia, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Lisbon, Portugal. I've been travel hacking my way around the world with Rotary as the excuse for the destination for the past 10 years. And I want to share with you, how do you do that? Now, as a fellow Rotaractor, but also a dual member Rotarian, I can share with you that you are in actually one of the best travel communities. Being part of the Big West Rotaract E-Club puts you in a very unique position where there are Rotaract clubs all around the world, about 250,000 Rotaractors all around the world. And we actually have a online couch surfing Facebook group called Rotaract Couch. It gives you an opportunity as a fellow Rotaractor to travel around the world and ask your fellow Rotaractors, just post there, hey, I'm going to be in Paris on these dates, or I'm going to go to London on these dates, or I'm planning on traveling to New York City on these dates. So wondering if anyone would like to meet up for coffee, or if anyone has an extra couch that I can crash on. I've traveled through Rotaract Couch, and I've crashed on a few different couches, a few different beds. And what's nice is just being able to meet locals. And of course, there's been a lot of times where I've, used my own hotel points, or I've stayed on my own. And my main goal is just to meet the locals. So even if couch surfing isn't necessarily your thing, you may decide that you want to meet some local Rotaractors. Now, there's also has not been a better year to be a Rotaractor. Our current Rotary National President, Barry Rassin, pledged at the beginning of this year and said that we really want to grow Rotaract throughout the year and double its size. So there's been a lot of focus about Rotaract, and that actually provides us a little bit of a segue. So now that I'm talking a lot about Rotaract, what are some reasons that you may want to want to travel hack, or you may want to travel in general? Well, the first one is maybe you want to connect with some relatives and friends. This is a picture of myself and my 90-year-old grandmother, and just the opportunity to travel back to Taiwan and visit her is something that I'm grateful for, and I use my miles and my points to get myself there. You may also decide you want to see the world. Maybe you have a bucket list. I recently completed my 30 by 30 or 30 countries by 30, and travel hacking was a big part of that. You may also just want to experience the global family of Rotary. This photo is taken in Sao Paulo, Brazil. On the right is our Rotary National General Secretary, John Hugo, and I'm joined with friends from all around the world. But the idea is simple. Every year, there are international events for Rotary, just like in Hamburg, Germany, this coming June is our Rotary International Convention. About 20 to 30,000 people from our organization are going to be there and from all around the world. And it gives you a unique opportunity to meet more people. 4, maybe you want to elevate your airport experience. If you've ever been to the airport and had to wait several hours for a delay, or maybe you get there early because you're trying to be safe, or maybe you're in between destinations having a transfer, if you ever have had to just sit there in the terminal without a lounge, you may decide at one point, wow, it'd be really nice if I could have an all-you-can-eat buffet, or an all-you-can-drink bar, or a spa, or a shower, or just somewhere private where I can relax with outlets and fast Wi-Fi so I can do some work. Those are all amenities that are provided by a lot of different airport lounges. So travel hacking may also mean that you're trying to elevate your experience when it comes to traveling. 5, maybe you want to arrive well rested. These are some photos, not the guy in the background, that's not really me, but the other photos are photos from a trip that I took from Tokyo to San Francisco in first class through Japan Airlines. And I burned points doing that. So the cash price of that ticket was about 10,000 US dollars. I paid about 35 US dollars for the ticket. So I paid for the taxes and I burned my miles and my points to get myself from Tokyo back home to San Francisco. And I can say that it's a very different experience to travel a long distance flight in a lay flat bed, as well as full dining service. So that may be one of your goals. 6, maybe you decide you just want to eat awesome food. And that could be whether or not you're at the airport and trying out different things, or maybe we're talking about hotels and their VIP lounges, or we might even be talking about the airplane service itself. 7, 4 places you normally can't. This is a photo of one of the St. Regis hotels in Venice, where I ended up staying in a few years ago. I was just fresh out of college, and I still didn't have much of a budget, and the rooms were going for around 900 US a night, just because it was really peak season, and it's very, very nice property. I burned hotel points because for a flat rate fee, based off the category of hotel, I could get this hotel room regardless of what the cash rate was for the night. So it's a different kind of experience that I was able to have. Number 8, maybe you just want to have fun. So this is a photo of myself in Hobbiton in New Zealand. I'm just kind of traveling, and I got myself there with just miles and points. So I've shared a little bit about some reasons why you may want to travel hack, why you might want to travel, and some of the benefits of being part of Rotaract while you're doing that. So let's talk about how do you do travel hacking. So every airline and hotel has a loyalty program for points or for miles. This conversation and this presentation is really geared for United States citizens. I know that we may have some international folks on the call, and that generally speaking, the loyalty points do apply internationally, but just so everyone knows, the credit cards that we'll be talking about really apply for US citizens only. So if you're a US citizen or you're based in the US, you actually have a very, very unique market here where the credit card companies are very competitive, and it gives us the ability to travel hack. So let's talk about 2 schools of thoughts. So there's 2 different types of travel hacking: value versus premium experience. If your goal is just to get from point A to point B, that's okay. That's a different school of thought. Whereas a separate school of thought may be your goal is not just get from point A to B, but do it in style or do it in comfort. Maybe you just really want a first class ticket from here to Tokyo or here to Delhi, India. And that would cost you a lot more points than an economy ticket would. So credit cards. We're not going to dive into every single credit card. This is also not a photo of the credit cards I have. Some people have asked me that before. I have a lot of cards, but not to this level. So this is a photo from a travel hacker blogger. And these are a lot of past cards actually, but the idea is still there. A big part of travel hacking really requires you to also get into some travel credit cards. And I'm going to explain why. So there are two different things you get from travel credit cards. One is the travel credit card sign-up bonus. So the initial bonus is usually pretty substantial, and depending on the credit card and its annual fee, that may be higher depending on if it's a higher end card. This is Chase Sapphire Reserve card. It currently doesn't have the 100,000 bonus points anymore. I believe right now it's just back down to its normal 50,000. But I wanted to show this as an example of a great sign-up bonus. Sign-up bonuses do change over time. And this one, you get 100,000 points after spending $4,000 within the first 3 months. And I'll give you an example of what that 100,000 bonus points means. And so the points do vary by system and by loyalty program. So that's probably the most confusing part. So with Chase and their Sapphire Reserve, you earn what's called ultimate reward points. And those do transfer to specifically to a few different airlines hotel points. We're going to talk about United in just a minute. But before I talk about that, I do want to talk about some common reasons that people kind of at this point shy away from the conversation. And travel hacking isn't necessarily for everyone, but let's talk about the things that might be on your mind right now. So first of all, credit cards. I think in America, we have a society where opening up multiple cards is kind of frowned upon inherently in our society. And there's kind of a culture of fear of credit cards at sometimes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, first of all, what are some things that you want to take a look at? And then I'm going to talk about how do you make this happen? So the first thing is we'll talk about the credit factors and how it's affected by this after we take a look at an example trip. But the general idea is also understanding that in addition to credit being a multitude of different factors, your credit card sign-up bonuses are there because marketing companies and credit card companies know that most Americans won't actually close out their credit card once they open it, just because there is that culture of fear. Also, because there's so many different credit card companies and products, there's a lot of competition in the market. So usually the sign-up bonus is worth at least several $100s, if not over $1,000. So quick case study. So we're actually going to look at SF to Tokyo in just a minute, but I wanted to throw in here an example that's relative to this year. So San Francisco to Hamburg, Germany. Let's say you do want to go to a Rotary National Convention and you want to do that on miles and points. So for this example, I'm just showcasing United. There are different airlines and different points you could have, but just for the sake of the example, we're going to be talking about United and focusing on an economy flight as a saver reward. So I plugged in the dates, June 1 to June 11th. Maybe you want to spend some extra time afterwards exploring Europe for a few days. And I also recognize that the pre-convention for Rotaract starts a little bit earlier. And the reason why we started with June 1 is just because of availability and for ease for this particular example. So here I have highlighted, and this was just pulled from earlier today, so this should still be fresh. But you can see that it costs 30,000 United miles plus $40.50, that's the airport taxes, to fly from San Francisco to Hamburg. That's one way. that's in economy. It's not basic economy, but it's economy. So you can carry on your bag, you can check in a couple of bags, and you can get yourself there. It does have one stop, so you'll notice that this is longer than a non-stop flight. It's about 13 hours of travel time, but it's right now about $40.50 in cash, right? Plus the miles. And then to get yourself back, it's also another 30,000 miles. And again, this is a saver award. This is the cheapest they go. But it's also an additional fee of $97.43, just because going back home through those airports and with the airlines, there's a little bit more fee attached to taxes. So right now we're looking at another 30,000 United miles and roughly around $97 to get back home. Now, if the taxes and the fees, you're not really happy about that, or if there's not availability for the airport, you can also think about booking 2 one-way tickets, but coming home from a completely different city. The taxes do vary by airport and by country as well. So right now, this is what we're looking at. So we're looking at roughly around 70,000 miles and a little over $100 for a round trip from San Francisco to Hamburg. This is the cash rate, just so everyone sees it, of exactly the same trip, but in just cash. You're looking at least $1,200 in cash, and it could be higher. Not every airline does their award tickets by by flat rate, but United does. So no matter how much the cash price is on that day, United gives you the option of booking an award ticket based off of what region you're flying from to where. So roughly speaking, all US flights from North America to Asia are about 35,000 United miles each way in economy, or here to Europe is about the same as well. That's the Saver Award flights. So the standard awards are double that. And you double that for business roughly, and then also you double it again for first class flights. So I showed you San Francisco to Hamburg. I want to show you really quick, what if you want to just get sushi in Tokyo and you just want to come back home? Maybe you want to spend just 1 week there. So again, the Saver Award gets you there for, in this case, 35,000 miles. And the taxes, because you're flying into Japan, is a little bit cheaper, so it's only $5.60. Unfortunately, the return trip, the taxes are a little bit higher, so you're looking at $54 or roughly $55 for the taxes. So you can get round trip SF to Tokyo for $60.53 plus the 70,000 United miles. Kind of just gives you an example of what you can do with these miles. And then so how do you get those points? We talked about the Chase Sapphire Reserve earlier. There's also a Chase Sapphire Preferred card, all different cards. And every card product has its own sign-up bonuses, but also its own points accrual. So what you're looking for are travel cards that lets you benefit from earning points depending on your lifestyle. So what I love about the Chase Sapphire Preferred and the Reserve cards are that they get you either 2x or 3x travel points for every dollar you spend at restaurants and also the travel category. So you stay at a hotel or you buy an airline ticket, you're getting the bonus points. You spend at a restaurant or you pay for parking or you pay for toll, you're also getting the bonus points. But there are also other benefits for some of these travel cards, such as travel insurance that comes with it, sometimes TSA PreCheck or global entry reimbursements, and also sometimes lounge access. A lot of the top tier cards, including the Chase Reserve card, does offer you like a priority pass, lounge pass, that gets you the opportunity to get into those airport lounges. So lastly, I want to talk about just really quick the credit score. I know that that's usually a major factor in people's minds when they're hearing about credit cards and travel hacking. And again, travel hacking isn't the right thing for everyone, but if you do decide to dive further into the research after this presentation, there are a lot of different websites I'd love to share. But just recognize that your credit score is a collection of different factors. You can use a site like creditkarma.com, or you can go to Equifax or to any other credit reporting bureaus and actually look at what your credit is right now. With Credit Karma, it's free. It's not a hard pull. but it analyzes what your credit is and also what different factors are doing well and what's not doing well. Just recognize that your total utilization is a big factor, whether or not you're paying on time, whether or not you've had any bad marks like bankruptcy, and then also just the total age of your credit. So as you'll see, the credit inquiries is pretty low, and that's the first initial impact that you would have if you started travel hacking. I would say from experience that my credit score through travel hacking actually went up a lot. And the reason is because I started travel hacking when I was young. That meant every time I opened up a new credit card and was approved, my total credit utilization, which is high impact, grew substantially. And because I would always pay off the balance, all the other high marks was also, they stayed good in the good mark. So that worked out. Something really quick to understand is travel hacking is not really the right thing if you're not planning on paying off your credit bills. And then part of that's understanding that a lot of these cards come with about 20 to 25% APR. So if you're looking to carry over a balance, you would be looking at cards specifically for that. So usually balance transfer cards or something else. Last thing, so maybe you don't spend the requirement for the sign-up bonus. There are ways to get creative with that. Think about purchasing your insurance for the year. Think about offering to buy things for your friends and having them pay you back, like if someone's buying a phone that year or a laptop or a car. Also think about whether or not you can pay for something for the club if you're putting on a club event and get reimbursed. You can also, if you really need to get creative, buy gift cards, such as Amazon gift cards or Visa gift cards, gas cards, things that you know you're going to spend anyway, but you just need to spend a requirement for the sign-up bonus initially. Okay, so your points are worth something. There's a site to share with you for that. I don't really want to dive too much into it. But just recognize that every system's points are worth a different amount. And then there are just different ways that you can maximize how you earn those kind of points. So ultimately, your next step should really be, where do you want to go? Have a destination or a goal in mind. And that should help guide your travel hacking experience. There are some great travel hacking blogs I want to share with you right now, thepointsguy.com, boardingarea.com, and millionmilesecrets.com. All three of these blogs are really big in the travel hacking community and can also share with you some more of the beginner guides as well as more advanced things. And they also share with you anytime there's a promotion for you to sign up for or anything to that extent. Now, I know that with travel hacking, it inherently comes to a point where because you can be at a different level for travel hacking or you may have a different desire, it's pretty difficult to tailor a presentation to fit everyone. There's no one size. So just for the Big West Rotaract E-Club in particular, and each of you as well as your fellow members, I'm offering a 10-minute free consultation, and that's available for you at the link there. That's the bit.ly link. It's just bit.ly/BWR travel hack. And that'll send you to a form and you just fill it out and just tell me what you're looking for. I'll spend about 10 minutes of my own time providing a recommendation for you. This is only for club members and it's limited time. So as soon as the meeting week is over, I'll deactivate the form just because I'm not looking to have 1,000 people ask me for help. So if you have something on your mind and I didn't cover it, I'd be happy to chat with you or help you out. And I appreciate the time that you guys have allowed for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mitty. I'm sure everyone else can agree that I was really interested in everything you had to say. So I'll open it up if anyone has any questions. Remember, you're on mute, so you'll need to unmute yourself to be able to ask a question. Well, I have a question for you, Mitty. So have you had any I guess, like fails from travel hacking, like something that just like went terribly wrong when you were trying to, use all your travel hacking?
I've never had a travel hacking fail per se. I've had lots of mishaps while traveling, which were uncontrollable. So I think that's a little bit different. And really a good question though. I would say there are missed opportunities that I've experienced. I don't know if there'd be fails, but there are sometimes when I use like the wrong credit card, or like when I bought a car. Um, After buying the car, I told myself I really wish I signed up for a credit card before that, so I could instantly finish the sign-up bonus. There are just like some big purchases in life that I probably should have planned for a little bit better with travel hacking. That would have netted me a lot of points at once that I just put on the card. So just not necessarily fails, but more missed opportunities than anything else.
And if you don't mind me asking, how many credit cards do you have currently?
I have a substantial amount. There are more cards. I have more cards than I have fingers.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. I have a question. So I do have one travel credit card right now, and I have two other credit cards I'd opened before then that didn't get me rewards, is before I knew about a rewards like program. Should I keep those, or would it hurt? Because you talked a little bit about credit score stuff. Would it hurt me to get rid of them? Because I really don't use them. They just sit there because they don't give me points. So I'd rather use my other card.
Yeah, I would disclaimer this with I'm not a financial advisor, but from my experience, and so this is what I would do. I would, with like the 10 years of travel hacking experience, I would actually keep the cards open, and I'll tell you why. When I closed my oldest credit card, this was a few years after starting travel hacking. My credit score did go down a little bit because your average age of the credit goes down because that's your oldest card, right? Anyone who, if you started your credit when you were in high school or when you're in college, that's great. Like that, you started your credit young, which is going to really help you later on. What you may think about doing is seeing if that particular bank, like a lot of the credit cards are centralized with different big banks like Chase and Bank America, Citi, Capital One. So you may see if they have like a better cash back or a better points card that you want to transfer to. The one caveat there I would say is that recognize that when you transfer or convert a card from one card to another card, once you have that new card product, you're usually ineligible for a sign-up bonus for that card. So that's the only downside of converting a card versus if you just apply for that other card and told your other same bank but the other card, hey, I just want to transfer my credit line to this new card, you'd still get the sign-up bonus for a new card when you apply for it.
All right. I think Hannah had a question. Oh, Hannah, you're on mute.
Better?
Yes.
Okay. What would you say is like your most successful hack?
Oh yeah, okay. It's a good question. I will never forget my first one, Bangkok, and that's why I talk about it, because I was 21 and honestly that blew my mind. Like it opened my world. Understanding that I can travel around the world for $5 each way like that changed my life completely. But I would say my most successful one is probably that first class trip from Tokyo to San Francisco that I shared, mostly because I even today, like I still usually travel economy or sometimes I'll do business class, but first class for me is like, that's pretty rare because not only is it substantially much more points than either economy or business, it's also a level of service. And we're talking about international flights and not domestic first class, but like here to like Asia, here to Europe, like it's like I had an attendant waiting on me the entire trip. like there was someone dedicated for me. It's like, it's a very different kind of experience that I just kind of agreed was not necessary for me. But it was such a cool experience because I paid $30 and it was like a $10,000 ticket.
And then
Thank you.
we have one more question from Rebecca in the chat, so I'll go ahead and read that on her behalf. So she's asking, how many airlines are you a frequent flyer of? And what strategies do you have for consolidation?
Yeah, thanks for your question. Disclaimer, I know Beck, and I know that she's an Australian. She's based in Australia. And I also know that frequent flyer programs in Australia are not always free to join. It's pretty different here in the United States. So I should probably disclaimer that first. But I am part of as many as I can join because they are free, and because just so everyone knows, the biggest thing you can do is you can start your own frequent flyer account. Because only the passenger can collect airline miles, at least for US citizens. So even if someone's paying for your flight, you're the only one who can collect those miles. Hotels are a little bit different, but that's how it is for most airlines. So if you aren't collecting the miles and the points for a trip that you've made or you are going to make, whether or not it's personal or business, you're missing out on an opportunity to collect some points, which can just add up to one day being able to travel somewhere. And a lot more airlines now, the points don't expire. And for the ones that do, generally speaking, it's still after a year or a year and a half of inactivity, sometimes 2 years.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was still on mute. Thank you. So if you're willing to, Mitty, I'll end it here, and maybe you can stick around if anyone has any additional questions at the end. Or again, Mitty shared that link with us, so you can always sign up to have your 10-minute talk with Mitty later. Thank you again so much for doing that. So just want to thank you once again on the behalf of our Big West Rotaract E-Club for joining us today. Our next meeting will be on the week of March 6th with our guest speaker, Jo-Lynn Tay, who will speak to us about bee hotels, an innovative way to cohabitate with nature in an urbanizing world. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you again in a few weeks. So this officially concludes Big West Rotaract's 6th meeting of the first year, so meeting adjourned.